Hello, and welcome to the Thief in the Empty Room podcast, where Zen meets business in a unique exploration of mindfulness and mental health. Join me, your host, Craig French, as I sit down with artists, entrepreneurs, and Zen teachers to uncover the secrets of expanding creative problem solving, reducing stress, and finding balance in this fast-paced world. Today's guest for season 2 and episode number 2 is Erwin Valencia, the former head of the New York Knicks medical and performance staff, the founder of the Grasshopper Project, as well as a mindfulness expert, gratitude practitioner, and overall Renaissance man. Welcome to the show, Erwin. Erwin, as I mentioned to you, as we're catching up backstage, this show is called The Thief in the Empty Room. That is based off of a Zen koan, which is a riddle or story that teachers use with their students to help them sort of break monotony, their sort of perception of reality. I like to start off the show by asking you my favorite koan, which is what the show is named after. So the koan is, a monk asked his teacher, what concrete thing did the ancestral masters get when they obtained the peaceful state? And the teacher replied, it is like a thief who enters an empty room. Do you need me to repeat that, or do you feel like you got it?
I want you to repeat that. I think I want to really sit with that and actually hear the whole thing again.
Yes. A monk asked his teacher, what concrete thing did the ancestral masters get when they obtained the peaceful state? The teacher replied, it is like a thief who enters an empty room. What does that mean to you?
That means that we have expectations of what we want to get and take and receive when we go into something, when we learn something, when we experience something. Oftentimes, because of these expectations that we put ahead for ourselves, we actually don't actually get the lesson that we're supposed to learn. And so it takes an open mind, an open heart, and a willingness to grow for us to be able to sit in that empty room and ask ourselves, what really is it that I'm learning here?
Wow.
And so
Beautiful.
that's what I take from that koan.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. I'm not going to even go into sort of my whole opinion on it because I've done that in other episodes, and I think your interpretation is beautiful the way it is. So, Erwin, you and I had connected a little while back. I want to hear about your whole story so the audience is aware. I'm a diehard, lifelong Knicks fan. Last year, 2 years ago, a photo came out in the media of you sitting on the sideline guiding Julius Randle through a meditation before the game. It just really struck me because big into mindfulness, coaching, teaching it myself. To see athletes at that level engaging with the practice was really profound, and I feel honored and grateful to be able to share the space with you today. Please share with it whatever you feel comfortable sharing about that moment, that experience. How did you end up leading mindfulness with the New York Knicks? Love to hear all about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, Craig, thank you very much for having me here and also putting this podcast together so that more people will learn about the power of mindfulness and the power of meditation
Thank
and to
you.
know the difference between the two. And
Yes.
I think that in itself is the education that what the world needs first before anything else is to understand the awareness and then the clarity of the actual words itself and then the practice. And so with everything I've done in my life, including that one moment in time that was captured, it all begins with curiosity. And I was blessed to have had exposure to Eastern practices. Number one, as a kid growing up in Southeast Asia, here in the Philippines, but also having a father that loved books. And we had a library, a wall full of books. And a lot of these books were books of
Wow.
martial arts, including the Shaolin monks and the fact that they had to tie lead weights on their feet to learn how to jump into a little mud hole that got deeper and deeper, which made me learn how they could jump onto a tree branch with just one false swoop. I had read books of Bushido and the Samurai Warrior Way, even to the Hashashins and the ninjas and that whole thought process. So for me, I was always fascinated and curious about how martial arts fits in the world, not only from a physical aspect of things, but also the mental and emotional aspect of things. I think I love the fact that the warrior monks of Burma were very peaceful in the way they meditated, but they were ready to fight if necessary. I like the way that samurai warriors dedicated their entire lives to their masters and willing to kill for that. And if we even willing to kill themselves, if they dishonor not only themselves, but their masters. I love the balance between violence and peace and the ability to purposefully and mindfully get to each space when we want to. And I think that's always been a fascination for me. So being able to then practice that, to share that with athletes at the highest level, and of course the Knicks is where I found myself at. It was like Jack Dorsey would always say, it took 10 years for me to become an overnight success.
Yeah.
And I think the expectations of people is that you find yourself in the NBA and then you are guns a-blazing, telling everybody what you do and what your expertise is. And as a matter of fact, it's completely opposite of that. I had to prove myself trustworthy to the athletes as a physical therapist, as an athletic trainer, as a strength coach, as a sports scientist, as a part of the team that was there for their overall well-being. When they were ready and when it was something that they were curious about, then I opened myself to what and who I was. And I say that because I am who I am. I was authentic as you could be. And so my office reflected that. I had a low-lying couch that was almost like a therapy couch in a sense. I had yoga pillows. I had a Nepalese sound bowl. I had a picture of the Dalai Lama.
Wow.
I had my black belt right in it so that when you walk in, you see my black belt from Taekwondo. I had the scent of essential oils filling the room. And so it was already, and it was an open space so that if players wanted to come and have a chat, we would have impromptu coaching sessions without even it being a set situation because they were just curious about things. They trusted me because I was a clinical expert. I had to gain their trust as somebody that was a practitioner of something they weren't familiar with. It wasn't necessarily that I came in and said, hey guys, this is what I do. We need to meditate. Players didn't like that. I mean, even when I was first with a team and I was very blessed to eventually have a guy like Phil Jackson as a mentor of mine, he wasn't fully accepted because of the fact that he was a coach. He was a suit, as the guys would call them, and not a coach. And so for him to implement anything, it wasn't easily accepted. Plus, our players were so young that they didn't really know the greatness of which and who Phil was.
Wow.
So for them, they just thought he was this old dude that used to work with Michael and Kobe. They didn't really know the practice that he stood for. For him to implement a couple of things that he did wasn't always accepted by the players. So I had to bridge the gap and found a way to make sure that it was relevant to today's kids player.
Can I ask you a question? Did you choose on your own to bridge the gap, or did Phil ask you to bridge the gap?
I asked Phil if I could, because Phil was very traditional. He was a true Zen Buddhist. So we would try to find time to really do his 20-minute meditations and mudras. He would only do it when he was available. And he would then sometimes impose it on the players, and the players hated it. So I said, okay, how can we make this more acceptable and more palatable to today's generation with millennials and Gen Zers? I talked to a friend of mine who was lucky enough as he came out of being a monk and went through a journey of creating a bridge, in a sense, using software. And that software was called Headspace. And the monk was named Andy Petticombe. So Andy and Rich Pearson, who started Headspace, I approached them and said, hey guys, can we do a collaboration where we use Headspace and in the back end find a way to anonymize it, to have players just practice it, use it as a tool as part of our recovery systems, because we have a pretty robust recovery system physically, but we didn't have one that was mentally and emotionally.
Wow.
Physically, from nutritionally, we have robust recovery systems, and we have the robust recovery, gamified recovery program. The only thing that was missing was the mental emotional side. And so I added this to our overall recovery system and called this the wellness recovery part of things. Headspace was part of that, and I gave this an option to players to use. So it was introduced at that time. There was just still CDs and stuff, and I started that. It was a bridge, and it wasn't until we had Andy come to our hotel and do a meditation with us in LA, or when he came to New York, he came and just popped by, that the players really had a face to the voice that they were listening to and actually slowly started buying in. Unfortunately, the attrition rate was pretty big. Out of the 15 guys that we were initially give access to for free, I think we lost 7 within the first week. We lost 4 within the second week. And in the end, by the third week, we only had really 3 or 4 athletes still using it.
Wow. So it wasn't a mandatory program. It was
No, and you can never make anything mandatory
yeah,
in the NBAs. So it's something that you just suggest as part of the recovery program. And if they do log into Headspace and take one of the meditations, then they get 1 recovery point, so to speak.
So you gamified a little bit.
Super gamified. And in the end, by the end of a month, really only 2 were using it. So that was just the introduction to this. This was Phil who started this, and then I added that element. And it really wasn't until David Fisdale came that he allowed me to then go full on. I had changed my duties as initially the head and the director of training and conditioning of the Knicks, and then moved my duties to basically the lead for wellness and rehab instead, because I wanted to just mainly focus on truly the human aspect of things and not have to deal with the analytics and the numbers. That really was my main job for the first few years I was with the Knicks. Fisdale, who I met at a Tony Robbins event the year prior to.
Wow.
We already found alignment. He said, hey, I said, coach, it was like, wow, are we going to bring Tony here? Yeah, we're going to like create like an environment of well-being and empowering. And he says, absolutely. And I want you to head that. I want you to like make this a thing that we do, that this is part of identity. We breathe, we meditate, we learn, we have a growth mindset. And so it was him that gave me the keys to the kingdom, that allowed me to practice what you see now. And even at that time, most of that was hidden. Stuff that we did in the locker rooms, it's stuff that we did in the court, in our practice facility with no reporters. Imagine that timeline of the introduction that we first did with Phil in 2014, that picture that was taken in 2023.
Almost a decade later.
It took 8 to 9 years for it to be embraced by an athlete, to be comfortable enough to sit in the middle of Madison Square Garden and every arena we went to and have me help them go through breathing, a little bit of mindfulness, and meditation. It took that long. Going back to what Twitter founder Jack Dorsey said, it took 10 years for me to be considered as an overnight success. Yeah, it took almost exactly that.
That's amazing. A question I have for you is, those 10 years were tumultuous years for the Knicks organization. A lot of changes in upper management, coaching. Had there been more consistency, do you think the program could have evolved faster than it did?
That's a challenging question to answer, because it was also the time that the generations were changing. Millennials were becoming Gen Zers. And as much as you want to say that it's the inconsistency of the management and the staff that was up with us, it was the inconsistency of how these kids were learning and the attention span.
Absolutely.
And they want to learn something and not just take things for granted. You could talk about everything that happens at the top, but you forget that the athletes were different. It's the way they thought, the way they did, the way they even practiced, who they idolized. It was all so different. I literally was in the shift that was occurring.
Absolutely.
So it was hard to really say that the consistency would have helped that, if at all.
Absolutely. And so the ones that did stick around, the 2 or 3 that were consistent, what did you notice about their approach, their personality, afforded them the interest to stick around and pursue it?
I think for me, it was being able to bring Andy to our practices and to our meetings, because they saw a face to the voice that they listened to, and that reinvigorated them to use it again. As the season goes by and the challenges started piling up, I think it unfortunately went off to the wayside. So I think the length of time that with headspace, so to speak, even though it was always available for the athletes, it actually helped the staff more.
Mm,
The coaching staff, our medical performance staff, it helped us
interesting.
be able to deal with the bigger challenges, while for the athletes, there's so much going on and so much turnover, even within themselves, that it was for them, they had to stick to what they know, even though this was an avenue for them to be better because they were unfamiliar with it still. It was hard for them to really grasp onto it. So, like I said, the fact that we've already built little things and then had challenges along the way, to the point that in the 22, but really what that actually that year started was the year it became really a commonplace for us was, yeah, when David Fisdale was there. And it was the year that Julius Randle decided he wanted to become elite. It was the year that Julius said, he had that summer prior to that, he had a chat with Magic Johnson, and Magic said, if you want to be elite, you have to train like the elite in every way, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, everything. You got to be elite. So he hired the people he needed to hire accordingly during that summer.
Wow.
And then I helped them stay consistent with the mental and emotional stuff, and spiritual stuff during the season when he had questions, but never forced the topics the way I did it. I was just merely there as a guide for him,
Yeah.
because he had his own way of doing things. And that was the year he became the most improved player of the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's the year he was able to get that big contract afterwards because he had a plan. And that was the beginning, because then he knew that there was value to it. And then other players saw that there was value to it because he saw it was value to it. In any sports situation, there has to be a leader. And the leader has to be able to show that not only find success in what they do because of what they did, but also the fact that they got paid. As we know in sports, that's the benchmark of whether you're good or not, is did you get paid? Did you get the bag?
Get in the bag, baby.
Yeah. But that is always boils down to the work that you do.
Fascinating, Erwin. Thank you for sharing all of that. So bring us now to sort of your decision to step away from that obviously very prominent position you held with, one of the most famous sports organizations in the world to what you're doing now with yourself.
I would consider a valley of my life was occurred in June 15th of 2023. I was merely doing what I do on a daily basis. I would go to the steam room. I would do my different like animal prime exercise, animal flow exercises. I do my yoga poses and stuff. And weirdly enough, something different was with that day. It's like I pushed through it because I think my body was sore from walking. I think I walked 15 miles that past Sunday. It was a Sunday because
Wow.
it was a sunny day in New York City. It was the beginning of the summer. We were done with our season, so I was like, I'm gonna go and go to Central Park, picnic, but walk there, and then walk to the middle of the park and meet friends and go salsa dancing because there's music. And then I found myself helping a friend of mine teach the salsa class, in a way, and be a guide. And then after that, one of my friends says, "Oh, we had to catch up." So I walked her home, and that was like miles and miles. And you don't notice this as you're going through it, and you're having conversations, and you look at your Oura ring, and your Oura ring, or your pedometer, and next thing you know, you've walked 15 miles in a day, and you haven't done that in a minute.
Yeah.
And so 2 days after that was June 15th. And I thought I was pretty fit. And then I was doing my, just on my poses in the sauna. And next thing you know, I felt a pinch in my back, pretty normal pinch. And then next thing you know, it was building up. I did a cold plunge. I was showering. And after I showered, I couldn't put my shorts on. I said, what's going on here? I walked into our own training room. A colleague saw me and said, look, dude, you don't look good. Are you okay? I was like, I think I pinched something in my back. I was like, okay, well, come down here. Let's do some, go to the last table in the end here, and let's do some treatment. So I'm lying down there. I'm doing a little treatment. And he goes, okay, go now. Let's flip over and see if we can get you a stretch before the players start coming. Because there were some guys doing, I think we had camps, or we had some kids in town, just like fashion week. I don't know. Something was happening where there was some people in
Yeah.
the building, even though it was off season. and I couldn't flip over. I was
Wow.
stuck lying on the floor with my face in a hole, staring at the floor. And then my other colleague tried to help me out, and I said, "Don't touch me," because literally everything they did increased the pain tenfold. And I was stubborn. I didn't want to get to the hospital. I called our team physician to see if she can give me meds and stuff. And she was like, "We need to go to the hospital." I was like, "No, I'm going to be fine. I'll be fine." 10 hours later, I was not fine. It was 6 o'clock. Everyone was leaving the building. My colleagues and our team physician goes, "Erwin, you need to call the ambulance. I need you to get to the hospital because we're not going to leave you here. You haven't even been in the bathroom yet the entire day. And you're going to scare the cleaning ladies when they show up into a dark room with a dude lying on his belly with the table propped up with maybe a puddle of pee on the floor." So
Yeah.
just get yourself to the hospital. That decision was made for me. The ambulance arrived, took 5 people to put me because I was in so much pain to the
Yeah.
gurney. And next, I was at the Westchester County Medical Center for 12 hours. While I was staring at the ceiling in the dark of night, in a dark room, I started thinking about my life. I started thinking about what are the things that maybe I haven't done yet, that me being physically able and mentally alert need to do now before it's too late for me to be able to do that. First 3 things that came to my head is, one, spend more time with my aging parents.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything I learned during the pandemic after not seeing my parents for 18 months, is that life is short, that at any given point in time, the universe might take them from me. So I have to make sure I spend as much quality time with them to hear their stories, to have deep conversations, to have challenging conversations, to talk about life, death, finances, succession, what they want to do if they move to the next life, and how they want to be remembered. These are things that are uncomfortable that kids don't often try to talk to their parents about, but I said, I need to have this done. My parents are getting older.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed to have them both healthy, but at any given point in time, this could be the opposite direction. And I never want to regret not having these conversations. Number 2, I left the Philippines 25 years prior to this year. I came to US for school, for a career, to be able to make a life, to make a name during that period of time.
Mission accomplished.
Thank you, thank you. So many people have come to the Philippines and discovered the beauty of the Philippines, discovered whether 1 or 20 or 50 of the 7,647 islands here, and found the beauty of not just the islands, but the people. I regret in some way not having a chance to visit some of these islands, especially when they were still pure and uninhabited and just filled with like the innocence of the youth that lived there. Meanwhile, every vlogger on the planet has found themselves here.
Yeah.
And I would always say, that's my place. I should know about that. I don't want to be too old to be able to hop on a rickety outrigger type boat made of wood and bamboo to be able to hop on islands and meet people and learn their stories. I want to be able and healthy to be able to experience this. Number 3, I wanted to open space for a true life partner to come into my life. I say that because I think a lot of times in our pursuit of excellence and our pursuit of career choices and ambitions, that we find ourselves being 100-mile-an-hour Shinkansen driving past, and we're hoping that somebody who has love for us joins on that ride rather than slowing down and allowing them to get on the ride. We accept for them to jump on the Shinkansen, on the bullet train, going the speed of sound, hanging on, rather than like slowing down and saying, I want to grow this. And so
Yeah.
I think I've spent most of my professional life with relationships that always asked me to slow down. But I always said I can't. So I'm on a mission to be the best at what I do. I'm on a mission to have my name recognized. I'm on a mission to create as much impact as I can, particularly back in the Philippines. And if they don't understand that, they couldn't understand that. I said, well, if you don't understand that, then you can't be with me.
Yeah.
And that was challenging. It really takes one to slow down, to how important it is to have somebody to support you as you go through the challenges. but not until you slow down will you have the opportunity to actually meet that person. That's something that I valued from the personal side. I said, you know what, this is important to me at this
Yeah.
stage of my life.
Yep.
I'm in my 40s now, and I want to still be able to have a family at some point and see my kids grow up and be healthy enough to play with them, to teach them things, and not be too tired, and
Yeah.
not be too bored, so to speak, and not be adventurous enough to be part of that. I think those are three things that really came to mind when I was staring at the ceiling of that hospital
Wow.
that ultimately helped me make that decision that maybe I need to move forward. And with the changes going on with the Knicks and with the NBA in general, I said maybe this is the exact time I need to go. I mean, I was really thinking it'll be one more year. That's the problem. We always say this. We say one more year, and then one more
Yeah.
year, and then one more
Yep.
year. But it's either you dictate the terms or the terms are dictated for you.
Yeah.
For me, there was an awakening that I experienced, and I said it was about time.
Wow. So what condition landed you in the hospital?
It was a neurotoxicity of two of my lumbar nerves, which I felt like maybe from my muscles being so tired from the 15 miles that I found myself walking on Sunday, and the change that happened to me because I pushed through rather than resting doing that sauna. Now the sauna, everything loosens up, but then everything's inside is nice and tight, but everything outside gets loosened up because the sauna. So now my body wasn't prepared to maybe even do this lunge that I was doing that opened up that then in turn poked that nerve, something from my disc in my back poked a nerve, and there's a bit of a leak that then poisoned the nerve that then sent shocks throughout my system. And so the spine surgeon that I consulted with the week after, that was part of our HSS family, said, yeah, Erwin, it's not like something crazy happened to you. It was just a ticking time bomb of a very distressed structure that just needed space. And unfortunately, that space meant putting you into pain. And I said, that's kind of funny because I think that's what my life needs now, space.
Interesting.
And that was my word, ironically, for 2024.
Wow. So how's your back feeling now?
2023, sorry, 2020. My word for 2023 was space. My back is a much better. I am more mindful of how much I can and should do. And when I push something, I need to make sure that I'm completely prepared for that push rather than just pushing to push. So some people will call this being older.
Mhm.
Some people will call this being wiser. I call it self-preservation.
Good for you.
So I,
So
so I have my morning routines now, and I'm as I already always have, but more specific to my back and my movement. And I make sure that even though I play pickleball like a fiend. So like even though I play pickle, I make sure that even if there's an open court, I warm up. They're like, oh, come, let's play. I was like, no, 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 I need this for me to prepare myself to play with you, because if I neglect this, it will take it out on me on the court, and I never want that to happen to me again.
yeah. So when you were in the hospital having this kind of revelation, how long did it take you to actually make the decision? Was it almost instantaneous and you were just like, I've made the decision, I'm firm on it, or did you waffle back and forth for a little bit?
I felt the ominousness was coming already. And it was in July 15th, after a month of contemplation and healing. I mean, there were days that for me, a win meant that I could sit on the side of my bed upright for 5 minutes. That was my win. I really had to wheel myself and really have the willpower to push myself to be able to and when the month passed and my boss was like, hey, um, our head of player care was like, take a month off. I mean, we don't really need you around here, and it's better that you're actually better. So it made me think a lot about everything and the direction I like to go in my life and when the change would happen for me. But I also felt like change was coming not only to the Knicks, but the way how NBA
Yeah.
life was going to be. And ironically, having conversations, it was with my boss, that things were going to change. And I said, look, if the direction that looks like you guys are going to is a direction that maybe I might not belong to anymore of who I am, maybe this is the sign that we should that this is the time for me to just shake hands and say, let's call it a day. And it was one of the greatest runs ever, but it's time for me to move forward. And for you guys, the same. And they did. And so it was like, it was an amicable situation where it took me almost a year to come back to our facility. It took almost a year for me to go back to watch the game at the Garden. The funny thing about that is that you come back to the Garden and you realize the kind of impact you make on people. I say that because I brought my little nephew in. It was an Easter game, I think, and I brought my nephew in while they were still in Connecticut, and we watched the game. And my nephew, he would ask me, as you know, as we went in for shoot arounds and we sat down next to the court, and he goes, "Uncle E, are you famous or something? Why does everybody know you?" And my simple answer to that was, I said, "Well, Maxwell, everyone knows me here because I was kind. Because I
Wow.
was kind to everyone. I treated everyone as a human being. I asked people how their days were in I really asked them how their days were, asked them about their families, talked about how life is. And I became a soundboard for ushers, for people, the janitors, the people on the side, the fringes, the security guards that people often forget and neglect. Some of these security guards, ushers have been here for more years than I've been born.
Yeah.
They value that situation. So through the time that I spent being at the Garden, I asked people what their stories were, the concerts they've seen, the celebrities that pass in front of them, and I was genuinely interested. And I think that's the difference between me and then a lot of people that find themselves at the Garden. For me, it
Yeah.
wasn't just the lights and the brightness of the celebrities. It was the people that worked there for the decades and watched things grow.
That's beautiful. With all that being said, tell me and the listeners what you're up to these days and how life in the Philippines has been treating you.
Life in the Philippines has been great. This past year has been a blessed year. I've spent 6 months here in the Philippines, and I've also spent 6 months traveling around the world. I spent my summer in Europe. I spent the spring in the US. I spent the fall in the US as well. And then the winter was here in the Philippines or in Asia. I was in Asia. I went not just the Philippines and around the islands of the Philippines that I told myself I was going to do. I went to Japan twice, once in Okinawa and once in the mainland in Osaka and Kyoto
Wow.
to spend time in the Shinto temples and stuff. I spent time in Thailand for a friend's wedding. I went to Taiwan and also went to Cambodia and spent time with the monks in Angkor Wat. For me, this time of self-discovery has been such a blessing, and to be able to then have a place like the Philippines and specifically where I am called Siargao Island, which is like what Bali was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's given me a place to see where I can create a home base that allows for the impact that I want to create in this world to be based out of. Rejuvenated is the right word. Inspired to do more, but also aware of my own energies. And yes, I give back as much as I can, but I need to begin the journey of also building myself to receive. And ironically, after the 1 year of sabbatical on November 1st ended, it was right before that, 2 weeks before that, I went to Cambodia. I consult for one of the top wellness resorts in the whole Cambodia, which is, a stone's throw away from Angkor Wat.
Wow.
And the founders brought me to meet that monk that I talked to you about. And we got the blessing. And then my friend goes, "Hey, do you want the monk to do a reading for you?" I was like, "What do you mean?" "I don't know. I just give you your fortune or whatever." I was like, "Why not?" So I asked him to do it. He asked me what my birthday was and what my name was, and proceeded to just give me information that like I said, didn't know I needed. First, as part of that, was the fact that he said, if you're planning to launch or sell or do anything that's like outside and building wealth, don't do it in November and December. Wait till January. Take this time
Yeah.
to just chill. He said the word chill. I was
Yeah.
like, okay. He has no idea that I've been on a sabbatical for a year. He has no idea that in the Philippines, when Christmas time comes, when December comes, nobody does anything.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that people do is eat, and eat at different places, their offices, their homes, their friends' homes, their relatives' homes, in a different part of the country. Everyone just eats, sings karaoke, and gives gifts. we just had Gratitude Gang, my foundation, we just had a Christmas party in November 9th for the indigenous kids in the mountains that we serve. I said, that's when Christmas parties already started. So funny enough, the monk was actually right without even knowing that he was right about what life for me is like because of where I live. He didn't even know where I was from. He just said, what's your name? Let me look at you. Don't work yet until January. Don't like go out. I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is so crazy. And he said, in 2 years, you'll get your fortune. You're going to escape. Your big fortune is coming in 2 years, but you're too nice of a guy that you give your fortune away a lot. So in 4 years, you'll be smart enough to just keep your fortune because you said you've already given enough. That said, in 2 years is when love is going to be fully concrete for you already. Just so that you know. So he gave me a yellow band and a red band, one for fortune and one for love. And
Oh,
so
okay. I have some similar ones myself.
yeah, so it's kind of funny. So yeah, so things just start happening as they are. And it's funny how much you realize as you take your time for yourself that maybe you need a little bit more time. I don't think when January hits, I'll still feel this like, okay, now I'm just going to chill. No, for me, I'm already anti. I'm already anti, but I'm following the monk's lead
Mm,
because I'm just looking around of how things are here anyways in real life. You're right. I'll wait 2 more months. I'll honor myself for two
yeah.
more months because I've needed to honor myself anyways. And I'm putting pedal to the metal when January comes.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll be excited to hear about the next chapter of your career come January.
Yeah, and so am I.
It's very exciting. I know that you surf also, and so it's like, you're riding the waves of the season, and the monk suggested that this season is a time to chill, as you said, and he said, and that big swell is probably about to hit again, and you're gonna ride that thing right to the shore. So it's exciting.
Really exciting, really exciting. I have my own podcast that's launching in Q1 2025 called Welcome to the Now that will be chronicling stories of people that made successful lives when they were younger or in one part of their life and their career and that transition of identity to that next part of their career and who they are, whether they're a young athlete that became a champion at the age of 14 and then is now at 30 trying to still figure out who they really are, or that Navy SEAL that loved being a Navy SEAL and transitioned and had a dip of not understanding who they were, and then suddenly becomes a CEO of a tech company that then goes up into the sky.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated about the transitional stories, particularly those who find success early in their lives. I mean,
Mm.
there's so many of them. I mean, we're talking not just athletes, we're talking entertainers, we're talking child stars, we're talking even influencers who have that one viral video, and then they think they're making they can make their lives out of it, but then they didn't act, and now they were just that one person that made that one viral video. It's not like one hit wonders.
Yeah.
So kind of like in that sense. So that's so who are they and what are they doing? What have they done in order for them not to fall into the life of depression, of suicide, and all that stuff? And I take a person like the story of Avicii that I find very resonating to me. At the age of 2021, he was the top DJ of the world, getting paid almost $1 million per gig, flying private, parties all
Hmm.
the time. He didn't know that there was something bigger than this.
Yeah.
And then he passed away because of that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm interested in these stories of people who actually did make it or are still in the midst of it. Even
Fantastic.
somebody who was maybe famous or popular in a different part of the world, now they want to make it in like Hollywood or New York,
Right.
and they thought they were the big things, but then now they're a tiny fish and nobody cares who they are. How
Exactly.
do they how do they deal with that when they could easily just go home and make money again and become famous? So that's the whole, I think, point of the podcast of Welcome to Now, which coincides with the group coaching program I'm launching as well in Q1 2025, as well as the beginnings of finally the formation of the book that I've been writing since 2016. So it's kind of all coming into play, and I'm really excited for that next part as the big wave is about to happen in my life.
Excellent. Well, I'll be looking forward to connecting with you again as some of these projects start to come to fruition, and it's probably a perfect time for us to to wrap up here. So thank you, Erwin, so much for your time. Your story is incredible, inspiring. The gift that you're giving to the world with your messages, your practice, your compassion, your empathy, your kindness. I mean, it's really, truly remarkable. So thank you for taking the time out to sit with me and discuss all of that. And I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate you.
Thank you. If you've made it this far, that means you've listened to the whole podcast. And for that, I wanted to say thank you. Please feel free to visit my website or social media for more information on my work at Craig Jared French. Until next time, thank you.